In this video, I'm going to describe the DISC profile and explain what it does. This video is brought to you by Leadskill. We share tools and tips to help you understand yourself and manage people better. Now, to understand the DISC profile, we need to realize that DISC describes behavior. And behavior can be broken down in a couple of different ways. But the most important contrast that we want to talk about is behavior style versus personality. Now, behavior style is how you do things. It's observable, relatively easy to read, external. Personality is much more complex and rich. It includes who you are, your self-concept, why you do things, your motivations, your driving forces, the full range of behaviors, both normal and abnormal. Things like your beliefs and experiences, your personal history, the total psychology of your person, therefore your personality. So DISC is only focusing on behavior style, or how you do things. DISC began as a model or concept. William Marston published a book in 1928 called The Emotions of Normal People. Marston was also the inventor of Wonder Woman, the character. Marston came out with the idea that there's 4 ways to look at behavior: dominance, influencing, steadiness, and compliance, therefore DISC. Later, this was developed into a tool or profile by Walter Clarke in 1942. Many people after Walter Clarke have invented ways to measure the DISC components and come out with different profiles or tests. So there's different ways to score this. You'll find a lot of competitive tools on the market. The DISC model, in its most basic elements, is these 4 factors of behavior. But what do they actually mean? DISC helps us understand 4 dimensions of normal behavior. Dominance is about problems, whether you take the direct or indirect approach to solving problems. Influence is whether you seek to influence people in an outgoing, personable way, or you rely on facts and logic in a more reserved manner. Steadiness is your pace, whether you prefer a slow or a fast pace. Compliance deals with procedures, whether you are a very quality conscious person or whether you like a lot of freedom. You don't want to follow other people's rules or procedures. What I just described is a more sophisticated way of seeing the DISC model. Most assessments or profiles on the market just look at the 4 dimensions. And as an example, for dominance, they just consider whether you're direct or not. In this case, let's say the person is not direct, whether you're outgoing or not very outgoing, whether you're slow or fast, this person is slow, and whether you have a high quality consciousness or not, this person doesn't. So this is the sort of profile that you would typically get from most DISC profiles that are on the market. There's another way to measure these, though. You can look at dominance in terms of direct or indirect, and how that's different from the previous is some people are a blend of the two. They might be in the middle, neither direct nor indirect. In this person's case, though, they are indirect, clear preference on that end. On the influencing scale, they're not outgoing nor reserved. They're in the middle. They're a blend of the two. They are slower paced. And in terms of quality versus freedom, a little bit of preference toward freedom versus quality, but not so strong. And so this kind of a nuanced or sophisticated way of understanding DISC actually gives us an 8-factor model, not just 4 dimensions. If this person were your colleague, there's 2 things you would notice or that would stand out to you about their behavior style. One is that they are indirect, or they're reflective in how they deal with problems. And the other is that they're slower paced, or they have a high steadiness on the S factor. Now, we want to take these 4 different dimensions and try to picture them in a different visual way. So we have a wheel, and we're going to put things around the edge of the wheel, D, I, S, and C. Let's just consider dominance. On the scale, further out from the center is going to be very direct and dominant. Closer to the middle would be someone who's indirect. And so our previous profile was someone who's indirect. In terms of influencing, they're kind of in the middle. They are not outgoing and they're not exactly reserved either. In terms of pace or steadiness, they're slower paced, and so it's going to be further out, closer to the S, more steady. And in terms of compliance, this person likes a lot of freedom and doesn't want procedures to bog them down. So they're going to be really close to the center. If you take these 4 different points and condense them just to one spot on the wheel, that would help us see what the person's natural preference is, their natural style. And we would put it right here in the S quadrant. We can also, though, measure a person's adapted style, or how they're adapting to what they think their job or environment requires. So the star would show a person who's adapting more to be an influencer. We can further analyze the job and see what the job requires. And the blue triangle helps us understand that the job this person is currently in actually wants someone who's more outgoing, who has a high influencing style, and is able to pick up the pace and be more extroverted. And not all DISC profiles can measure these different applications or DISC, natural versus adapted versus the job requirements. But this is what's possible using the DISC model. William Marston's original work was called The Emotions of Normal People, and each one of the behavior styles has a signature emotion and a signature fear that is associated with each one. Is also something that helps us understand behavior style in a more visible way. So for dominance, the emotion is anger and their fear is being taken advantage of. For influencing, the emotion is optimism. Their great fear is social rejection. For steadiness, the emotion is stability. They're pretty balanced, and in fact, it's kind of hard to read their emotional effect outside. Their fear is loss of security. And for the compliance, or C, the dominant emotion is caution or being careful, and their great fear is being criticized for their work. Now that we've explained the DISC profile, what's next? Well, there's a lot more you can do with DISC. On an individual level, you can use DISC to understand yourself better, to practice emotional intelligence, to communicate more effectively with other people. You can grow your career, you can sell better. There's a number of applications that you can use DISC for on the individual level. As a coach, you can develop people and help them communicate more effectively. As a leader, you can use DISC to manage people better, to analyze team dynamics, to hire more intelligently, and also just to look at your organizational tendencies on a larger scale than even the team level. Subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more on these topics. You can also hire us for help in implementing DISC in your company or organization. Thanks for watching.